How do you do, ladies and gentlemen? And this is my blog for today. And I want to ask you a question. You know what the greatest threat of the world is? Now, it's probably, in your mind, it might be your rent. To somebody else, it might be healthcare. Another person might think they haven't got enough money for the bar mitzvah. Sometimes if it's a Gentile, he doesn't know if he could afford the hat for the church or not. Different people have different problems. But there's one problem that overwhelms every other problem. We won't be able to go to church or the bar mitzvah or anything else if we won't be able to do anything at all if a nuclear war breaks out. And there's a great chance for nuclear power to be distributed so freely all over the world that all our lives will be threatened. So you know what Barack Obama did? As usual, he immediately created a conference. Now this is a conference about absolutely nothing. It's called a nuclear power conference about nuclear power. But what has this conference got to do with nuclear power? Nobody is stopping Iran from building a new bomb or creating nuclear power. We're talking about stopping them. Every day he makes an announcement, they better stop this. We've got to put a stop to this. We're creating sanctions. So he creates more sanctions and makes another announcement, and they're closer and closer to building the bomb. And he's not the only one. I'm a fair person, and I tell the truth. Bush was just as much of a failure and was just as preposterous in this situation as he is right now. Bush kept talking about sanctions, and the sanctions were nowhere, and they got no place, and they accomplished nothing. Sanctions, less tomatoes are going to come into the country. A supermarket will close down. We're not sending as much sugar, as much salt, as much mustard. What did we do about what kind of sanctions? The sanctions add up to nothing. There's only one kind of a sanction that would mean anything. Stop the gas and the oil from coming into the country. If they can't power anything, there's no gas and oil in the country, all of a sudden the sanctions count. But nobody is there to do anything about it. So we made a nuclear conference. Russia came to the conference, and so did China, and so did India. And what are they going to do there? Absolutely nothing. There's nothing, because to be honest about it, if they wanted to do something, do you need a conference? Do you have to come to Washington with limousines and cars and chauffeurs and planes? And do you have to travel all over the world and get together from thousands of countries and make a conference? What do you need a conference for? All you have to do is make sanctions against that government and make it in a way that would mean something. If there's real sanctions and there's no gas and oil coming into the country, that would do the trick. Now, they'll do everything but what you have to do, because if you have to do it, then you can't. You'll look like you're doing nothing. So you have to pretend you're doing something, you don't know what. So you create a conference. A conference looks like you're busy. And there's nobody likes to look busier than Barack Obama. He had a conference about global warming, went down the drain, but all he knew is that he traveled. He looks like a president. His name is in the paper. He's got headlines, and he looks busy, and everybody says, boy, is this a president? Because he's talking about global warming. He's talking about it. He makes a speech about it, and that's the end of the subject. He tackles every subject with a new speech, a new conference, and a new trip. He loves planes, and he loves trains, and he loves traveling, and he loves moving, and he loves to fly around the world, because nobody could get over limousines and planes more than he does. And he does a TV show, and he talks about it. And then he feels like he had a conference because he could announce it. Then he takes a plane and takes another train and flies jumps into another car, and the limousines are getting bigger, the planes are getting longer and longer, because he doubled and tripled the planes and the cars. That's the main thing, cars and planes and conferences. And everybody comes together, and he stands by podiums, and everybody else stands by a podium. Everybody feels like a prime minister and a president. They remind everybody in the world they got power, and it's power about nothing. And they're doing nothing. The nuclear power and the nuclear threat is getting bigger than ever. And there's more of a chance of us all getting wiped out than ever before. And the only thing we'll ever have is more conferences. The conferences will go down the drain, and so will all of us if we don't do anything about it. Do something. Close the conference and take a chance. Do something about it. And that's the only way something will come out of it.